Hello. I don't know how to start this other than saying Weird History's back. They made a video about 18th century wigs and why people wore them, and I watched it. And then I died inside. And then I was like, you know what? Stop right there, self.
Get some help.
If you're gonna die inside, you should do it on camera because this is an excellent learning opportunity. Chrissy, stop it! Again, as you guys know, HelloFresh has been a sponsor of this channel for, I think, well over a year at this point. I love them, I love working with them, and I love using HelloFresh to help ensure that I have a very balanced, healthy, meal at least once a day. We use them even when they're not sponsoring this channel, and we love it because there's so many delicious meals to pick from. HelloFresh now has 30 separate dinner recipes to pick from every week, so that way you can always find something that works for you, whether you're looking for something that's pescatarian, vegetarian, kid friendly, or just family friendly. There's so many options to pick from. HelloFresh is super easy to work with if you're going on vacation or you need to pause your meal plan for a few weeks. It's super easy to do that at no additional cost. You just kind of clicky. It's called Good to Go, no problem whatsoever. HelloFresh is the first carbon neutral meal kit company.
We're going completely carbon neutral!
Almost all of their packaging is actually recyclable, no joke. So if you haven't given HelloFresh a try yet, I highly recommend that you go to HelloFresh.com and use my code ABBY16 to get 16 free meals and 3 free surprise gifts from HelloFresh. Link is in the description below, and with that, thank you so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Now let's go back to suffering internally and screaming inside. The real reason people from history wore wigs. Totally based on fact and not at all over bullshit history. There's no group today. This is, I guess, a solo meeting of the Catherine de Medici Time Travel Society. If you get the reference, cheers to you. Yes, there is booze in that. I have been researching 18th century hair and hair dressing, hair hygiene, hair care practices. I do have a book that I wrote called The American Duchess Guide to 18th Century Beauty that covers a lot of what I've learned. It is definitely the research rabbit hole that I've spent a lot of time. This is my research baby.
So I know what I'm talking about.
Let's suffer together, shall we?
European men refused to go outside without first donning an enormous wig.
Okay, I have to stop it right there. Enormous wig, really? In the early part of the 1700s, very late 1600s, yes, the wigs were enormous, but by the end of the 18th century, they were not. Moving on.
Today, we're going to take a look at the real reasons people wore huge powdered wigs.
The real reasons people wore huge powdered wigs. No. Wigs cover up syphilis. Gonna spoil that one for you guys. Everything you're about to listen to is wrong.
Syphilis began to spread in Europe in the
This is so
1490s, which might explain why guys like Christopher Columbus were so desperate to get out of there.
Or maybe Christopher Columbus left because he was a piece of shit.
Syphilis was spread by sexual contact, but because this was before the development of antibiotics,
This has nothing to do with the wigs, but why is it people in gold body paint rubbing up? Why is that there
this last symptom was an especially big problem. Having
That's my
long
hairbrush.
hair was an extremely important status symbol at the time. So syphilis was more than just an incurable STD. It was also a social disaster.
I like how the social disaster part is related to how long your hair is and not, I don't know, it being a sexually transmitted illness.
Samuel Pepys perfectly summed up that attitude in a diary entry he wrote after learning that his brother had syphilis.
So Samuel Pepys' brother gets syphilis because he's not being monogamous, I guess we could put it that way. And when you actually read that quote within its context, instead of ripping it out of context, he's so embarrassed and so ashamed that he has syphilis that he can't show his head, as in he can't show face. It's not he can't physically show his actual literal head, it's that he's embarrassed. So that diary entry is from March of 1664. In November of 1663, Pepys writes, "By and by came the Duke, and he walked, and at least they went into the Duke's lodgings. The king stayed so long that he could not discourse with the Duke, and so we parted. I heard the Duke say that he was going to wear a periwig, and they say the king also will. I never till this day observed that the king is mighty gray." So that's the first kind of reference Ken and I could find, or mostly Ken, honestly, to be honest, could find about a periwig being mentioned in Pepys' diary. And obviously that statement after mentioning the king's gonna wear one, about the king observed that the king is mighty gray, and then all of a sudden he's not. maybe it has something more to do with, I don't know, just vanity and fashion. Just me, just a thought. And then what actually happens though is if you go to the next day, so Tuesday, November 3rd, Peeps being Peeps, takes himself to the periwig maker. By and by comes Chapman, the periwig maker, and upon my liking it, the wig, without more ado, I went up and there he cut off my hair. You mean shaved his head? Weird history. Peeps doesn't have syphilis as far as we're aware. This also happens a year before his brother gets syphilis. Do you wanna explain that? Weird history. And away we went with my own hair to make up another of. And I, by and by, after I caused all my maids to look upon it, and they concluded it do become me, though Jane was mightily troubled for my parting of my own hair. So not only did he buy a wig from the wig maker and he cut off all of his hair to do it, he then sent the hair along with the wig maker to make another wig. So I think we can be safely assured that this is not actually a medical thing in that it's to cover up syphilis, but actually a vanity thing and a fashion thing.
Wealthy Europeans turned to wigs to hide the symptoms of syphilis.
So obviously the whole Peeps thing, we were able to debunk that. Kenna did some research into trying to figure out where that like myth and rumor came from. And like the best that we could find was an article from a Winter publication, by the way, which I was extremely kind of disappointed in, that they used a 1905 source as some scholars. No, we don't do that. Furthermore, if you are actually interested in the medical reasons behind wearing wigs, because there were medical theories behind it, I think is a good way. Emma Markowitz's PhD called Hair, Wigs, and Wig Wearing in 18th Century England. It's a free PhD. I'll have a link below. I've referenced her work before. She actually does dive into the medicinal theories behind wearing wigs. So if you're actually interested in the medicinal reasoning behind wig wearing, she's the PhD for you. And I will tell you, it's not syphilis.
The 18th century publication Encyclopédie, largely written by French philosopher Denis Diderot.
I mean, I respect the fact that they've referenced Diderot in here, but I'm also kind of like, you're getting ready to like drag this man's good name through the mud with your bullshit. And I think that every material culture historian right now is just like screaming.
In it, Diderot claimed that long hair was the mark of royal blood, dating back to the beginnings of France. So, Motley Crue were all French kings?
So
makes
stupid.
sense.
It's a bad joke.
I guess.
That's a bad
Probably
joke.
not. Diderot
That's not a
was
funny
so
joke.
into long hair.
Diderot is so into long hair, and Diderot in the portrait has really short hair that's not really powdered. It looks like it's his natural gray, and it's not even been styled. I really wonder about the scriptwriter, the image B-roll finder, and the editor. And in my mind, at Weird History, they all hate each other because they're all like...
Haircuts were more or less short, depending on the degree of inferiority in the ranks, in such a way that the monarch's head of hair became, so to speak, the yardstick of social rank.
Also, can we just talk about the fact that like they're literally contradictory within this own video? Because they first go, oh, it's because of syphilis, because Peeps, and now they're like, it's actually a fashion thing because like the aristocracy liked having long hair. And I'm like, yeah, which one is it, guys?
Concealing the bald patches and bloody sores of a syphilis infection, which rivaled the Black Plague and how quickly it spread across Europe.
Syphilis infection, which rivaled the plague and how fast it spread across Europe.
Louis XIV became king when he was only 5 years old, and he started going bald when he was still a teenager. Like a Kardashian, Louis was obsessed with his reputation.
Okay, another thing about Weird History is like these little aside, like shitty aside comments, I'm kind of like, are you a satirical website? Like, are you a satirical channel? Because you make...
But even though the wigs covered up Louis's baldness, they couldn't hide the rumor that the king had syphilis.
Oh, it ties back to Louis XV had syphilis. What kind of romance novels are you reading, Weird History?
The king's penchant
Alan
for wigs had a
Rickman.
big effect on the market. Suddenly, everyone was clamoring for wigs to hide their bald heads.
I hate their bad use of images. Like, they're good images, they're just used completely in the wrong context.
Wigs became a big business, so big that in 1673,
That was an image. Wigs became a big business of a woman having a wig. Again, a satirical image.
Independent Wig Makers Guild for master wig makers.
Well,
A
yeah,
century
it's trade
later, in
guild. That's
1770
good. We should be organizing our professions and having professional organizations to help protect us from being taken advantage of. Women also wore
By
wigs.
the latter half of the
Okay, first off, this is the section that's actually gonna make me extremely hostile because your all's use of my images and my friends' images without any sort of citation and credits, and especially when it's with this filth, is extremely upsetting. That's Hannah. She's lovely.
Hannah does good research, unlike you guys.
Wigs weren't just for men. They were also popular for women.
Okay, now we have this god-awful white plastic thing. I hate this freaking wig. I hate this wig, guys. It's the worst wig ever. It makes me like... While women did wear wigs in the 18th century, because you can never say never within the context of history, because humanity and society and culture is diverse, it's unique. While it did exist, usually the way it is presented within the historic context, within the period, is of a few things. One, the woman is being portrayed as very silly and vain. The woman is old and vain. The other reason is because of illness or disease. There's also a certain level of like poverty about a commentary almost about trying to be above your station.
Colorful hair powder was also very popular among the ladies.
You are
who
also
used gray,
correct.
blue-
Also, like low-key, this video came out May 18th. My video came out on, rainbow hair came out on the 15th.
Pretty much everyone smelled like old milk back then.
Pretty much everyone smelled like old milk back then. How the fuck do you know, dude? Were you there? Obviously not.
Wigs were also quite adept at concealing rodent chefs.
Oh, I know it's a joke. I know it's a Ratatouille joke. It's fine. Don't.
In 1663, Pepys was driven to the wig shop by the pains of keeping his hair clean.
Okay, you literally just brought up the Pepys thing again. What are you guys doing?
Pepys declared, "I have no stomach for it." In other words, wigs, not for me.
What? Wig's not for me. He literally the next day paid like 3 shillings for a wig and then gave the wig maker his hair to make another one. What Pepys diary are you reading, guys?
Cleaning the enormous and costly wigs, which had to be almost architecturally designed with support structure.
That's me. That's from my book. It's literally a book about hairdressing. And we did not use a wig. That's Rebecca. And that's her natural hair. I did that. That's Nicole. And that's me dressing Nicole's hair for the book. I am not convinced at this point. That weird history, I swear they're trolling me. That image of Rebecca is not an easy one to find. They dug for that one. It's literally my work.
The process of powdering a wig that size certainly added to the daily work.
If you'd read the book that you stole the images from, you would know that wasn't the case.
Soon the lice infested the wigs instead, which was less good. Still, it was much easier to delouse a wig rather than pick them off a person's head.
We deal with lice today, guys. Like, we don't defeat lice by just washing our hair. Lice are attracted to clean and dirty hair alike. It doesn't actually matter. Pomades and powders are scented with natural oils and scents that actually deter lice.
Since wigs became required accessories for noblemen during the reigns of Louis XIV of France and Charles II of England, the term bigwig came to indicate a powerful and wealthy person.
I have not looked up the etymology of the phrase bigwig, but I'd be interested to see if it actually has 18th century origins or not.
Aristocrats saw the wig as a marker of status. And why wouldn't they? Wigs certainly weren't cheap.
Okay. Wigs is a marker of status. Again, I'm gonna send you guys back to Emma Markowitz's PhD. She actually dives into how they are not actually markers of status. It's not a marker of fashion, it's a marker of what you do.
A man came up to me wearing black silk clothes and a well-powdered wig. He introduced himself as the oldest son of my blacksmith or saddler. The depressed aristocrat lamented, "Everyone has become a monsieur."
It's new money. It's a new money issue. It's not a wig issue, guys. It's just a general new money issue.
In his well-known portraits, America's most important founding father sure looks like he's wearing a wig.
That's debatable.
But he's not. George Washington actually wore his own hair, styled to look like a wig.
This makes no sense, guys. He had real hair that he styled to look like fake hair. Or maybe hairstyles had styles and fashions and people just followed them. Whoa, that's crazy.
That is the kind of cunning that wins revolutions.
I'm not...
In truth, Washington's hairstyle was considered a common military style at the time.
In truth, Washington's hairstyle was considered a military style at the time. Weird History is literally telling you
They're full of shit.
Washington's hair was long in the back and curled at the sides, smoothed down with oil to show his forehead.
Smoothed down with oil to show his forehead. It's pomaded and it's powdered. You can't add oil on top of the powder because then the powder will disappear, just so we're clear.
Washington wore his hair powdered. The powder may have been talcum powder, starch, rice powder, chalk, or even plaster of Paris.
No, it was wheat starch. If it had anything else in it, like plaster of Paris, chalk, clay, it would not have been talcum powder. But if it had any of those other additives in it, it was considered lesser quality and dangerous to use. If you bothered actually reading the primary source, Weird History, you'd know that.
Driving out the aristocratic imitation of the ancient regime in favor of a more egalitarian look. Enormous powdered wigs simply didn't fit with the new, simpler trends.
Obviously, the French Revolution had impact on fashion and everything because it was happening in France, and France was the pillar of fashion. But the shrinking of hair, it doesn't actually happen that like overnight. It's actually a gradual deflation. If you actually look at images from like 1770 to like 1795, you can see how it goes up, out, round, and then it shrinks back down. The hair powder tax that they're getting ready to kind of touch on absolutely has a part in this and the shifting of hairstyles, but it's just a normal ebb and flow of fashion. It's basically what I'm getting at.
William Pitt pushed for a heavy tax on hair powder.
When it comes to the tax, that's actually probably the most historically correct thing that they stated because they didn't actually like pontificate on it in any way, shape, or form. But in the late 1790s, there was a tax put on hair powder because there was issues with the wheat industry and prices and trade and flour. And a lot of people were taking their frustrations out onto the hair powder industry, to which people in the hair powder industry were like, hey, no, it's not our fault. Like, wheat starch doesn't take away from flour. Like, they're not competing products. But they did put a tax on hair powder that basically made it so the lower sorts couldn't really afford it. And so it just kind of faded out. It's not banned, it's just more expensive. So that's just something to keep in mind. But with that, we have suffered through that 11-minute and 14-second long hellscape of a video. If you guys like hanging out with me, don't forget to subscribe. I post every other Sunday. Sometimes we just drag Weird History because, as I said, we're either in a really screwed up like symbiotic relationship now where like they produce content that just like makes me like see red and just gets hostile and like extremely angry, or we're in a blood feud. I really can't decide between the two, but there's something going on here, and Weird History, I am watching you. And one day I might get so weird as to do some Googling. That I'll see you all back here next time with another video. Bye.